Before the word Inugami is defined, it must be understood as something far more complex and more dangerous than a monster. In rural Japan, being accused of possessing an Inugami could erase a family's future entirely. No proof was required. No confession was necessary. The accusation alone could alter marriages, careers, and even the survival of entire households. Families suspected of harboring an Inugami were avoided at every turn. Marriage proposals were withdrawn. Business relationships dissolved. Children grew up under the weight of inherited suspicion, their social opportunities constrained by whispers they could not control. This was not superstition for entertainment or storytelling. It was a functioning system of social control. Fear replaced evidence. Silence became law. The Inugami was feared not because it was visible, not because it attacked, but because it was believed to endure. It could be passed silently from generation to generation, punishing descendants who had never participated in its creation. Entire communities structured their behavior around the possibility of the Inugami's influence. Neighbors watched one another. Family alliances shifted based on rumor alone. Reputation became a tangible currency, and it could be destroyed by belief itself. Understanding the Inugami means understanding the power of belief. It is a demonstration of how memory, fear, and cultural expectation can be weaponized. You're watching Grimm Lore. This documentary examines the Inugami, a spirit created through human action, defined by obedience, and sustained by fear, memory, and cultural weight. This is not a dramatization. This is a historical and cultural examination of one of Japan's most disturbing and socially pervasive folkloric beliefs. Through this documentary, we explore the Inugami's origins, its role in families and villages, and how it became a curse that could outlive generations. The word Inugami translates directly to dog spirit, yet this simple translation misses its full meaning. An Inugami is not a naturally occurring yokai. It is not born in the forests, discovered in isolation, or stumbled upon by chance. According to folklore and historical accounts, the Inugami is deliberately created by humans. Its existence relies on ritualized cruelty, strict intent, and human belief. The Inugami is at once a curse, a tool, and a form of spiritual debt it is designed to serve. But its obedience is fueled by memory, by the suffering it witnessed. Unlike spirits that wander freely or act independently, the Inugami is bound to a household, a family line, and occasionally a single individual. It obeys, it remembers, and it does not leave. Its loyalty is not born of affection or instinct. It is a loyalty forged in pain, maintained by fear, and sustained across generations. Folklore often describes the Inugami as a reflection of human intent. Its power comes not from nature, but from the choices, cruelty, and desires of its creators. Belief in the Inugami appears most frequently in Western Japan, particularly in Kyushu, Shikoku, and parts of Honshu. These regions experienced repeated famine cycles, rigid feudal hierarchies, and fierce competition for limited land. Survival was uncertain, social structures were fragile, life could turn on rumor, misfortune, or unexplained illness. In such circumstances, misfortune demanded explanation. Why did some families prosper while their neighbors starved? Why did illness strike certain households repeatedly? Why did some bloodlines appear cursed while others thrived? The Inugami became an answer, not as a creature of chaos, but as a controlled force, a reflection of human intent, a supernatural explanation for inequality. It served as a warning. It enforced loyalty. It created fear in a society where resources were scarce and social bonds were fragile. The Inugami's influence extended beyond the spiritual. It shaped marriages, alliances, trade, and the very survival of families. Belief alone was enough to alter lives. Scholars note that Inugami belief also functioned as a moral system. The creation of an Inugami was a form of retribution against rivals or traitors, a way to justify social punishment without formal law. Historical records and oral tradition describe the Inugami's creation as a deliberate and taboo act. Dogs were chosen not randomly, but symbolically. In Japanese culture, dogs represented loyalty, protection, and guardianship. To corrupt that bond was believed to generate powerful spiritual force. Accounts describe animals starved, restrained, or killed under extreme suffering. In some traditions, the dog's head was preserved as a spiritual anchor. This ritual was never widespread. It required secrecy, courage, and a willingness to violate social taboos. It is important to state clearly, these are historical belief reports, not endorsements, and not instructions. What matters is what people believed. That loyalty betrayed created obedience enforced by fear. The spiritual mechanics of an Inugami relied on emotion. Pain, betrayal, and suffering were thought to fuel the spirit, binding it to a household in perpetuity. The Inugami was believed to serve its creator's household, not out of affection, not out of gratitude, but because it remembered suffering. This relationship was transactional. Families reported early benefits, protection from rivals, increased fortune, success in disputes, but the cost was delayed. Over time, obedience demanded maintenance, appeasement, secrecy, and ritual acts. Isolation followed. The spirit demanded attention to its memory, its origin, its continued respect. The Inugami did not rebel, it collected. It enforced loyalty through fear, not affection. This created a dynamic in which the spirit could outlive its creator, shaping households, alliances, and relationships long after the original act. Families suspected of possessing an Inugami were labeled Inugami-machi. This label carried severe consequences. Marriage into such families was avoided. Children were excluded from social and economic networks. Trade, employment, and community bonds were severed. The belief punished not just the accused, but everyone connected to them. Even denial was treated as confirmation. Rumor and fear became enforcement mechanisms. The curse worked socially, whether or not anyone believed it spiritually. If this exploration of the Inugami has captured your attention so far, consider subscribing to Grimm Lore. These documentaries are designed to last, to preserve historical and cultural context, and to explore folklore with rigor and depth, not as sensationalized entertainment. By subscribing, you support the production of long-form examinations of myths, legends, and hidden cultural systems. You help keep these stories alive in a way that respects the culture, the history, and the human experience behind them. And if you found this insight valuable, share this documentary with others who seek context over spectacle. One of the most feared aspects of the Inugami was inheritance. The curse did not end with the creator. It embedded itself into bloodlines. Children inherited suspicion without explanation. Ignorance did not weaken the belief, blood sustained it. Some families reportedly altered their behaviors for generations to avoid even the appearance of angering an Inugami. Arranged marriages were influenced by the presence of the spirit. Dowries were adjusted. Households were sometimes abandoned entirely. The belief created a self-perpetuating cycle where fear replaced evidence and silence became survival. Descendants learned to act cautiously, to avoid conflicts, to appease unseen forces. The Inugami was more than a curse, it became a social inheritance. Passed silently like property or tradition, but carrying far more danger. There were no courts for Inugami accusations, but the punishment was very real. Communities enforced belief through exclusion. Rumor functioned as authority. Reputation, once stained, could rarely be repaired. Some families reported decades of subtle harassment, shunning, and social isolation. Businesses failed. Alliances dissolved. The Inugami did not need to exist in a visible form to destroy lives. Belief alone was enough. Folklorists note that Inugami belief functioned as a form of community regulation. By invoking fear of supernatural retribution, villages controlled behavior and punished what they saw as betrayal or hubris. Even today, these stories highlight the power of belief as a social tool, demonstrating that what people fear can shape their reality. By the late Meiji period, public belief in the Inugami began to decline. Education expanded, urbanization increased, ritual practices faded. However, stigma persisted. Families with known ancestral connections to Inugami Machi sometimes concealed their lineage. Old beliefs survived quietly, in whispers, in family stories, and in careful behaviors meant to avoid misfortune. The curse survived as memory, as cultural caution, as a metaphorical presence in households long after rituals disappeared. Modern Japan rarely acknowledges active belief in Inugami today, but the social and psychological legacy of the folklore endures. Modern scholars interpret Inugami belief as a convergence of folklore, social control, psychological explanation. The Inugami is an example of how cruelty, social hierarchy, and superstition intersect. It demonstrates that punishment can be systemic, that fear can be inherited, and that stories serve as both moral lessons and social mechanisms. The monster in this case was never just the spirit, it was the system that created it, the households that enforced it, and the culture that accepted it. By studying Inugami, we understand more than folklore. We understand human behavior, social fear, and the enduring power of reputation. The Inugami persists because it reflects universal truths. Reputation outlives individuals. Fear spreads faster than facts. Punishment does not require proof-only belief. These lessons are timeless. The Inugami illustrates that belief alone can shape societies, that social pressure and cultural memory are as powerful as physical threats, and that cruelty when ritualized can ripple across generations. Even without visible manifestation, the consequences remain. It is why the story endures. It is why historians, folklorists, and psychologists continue to study it. The Inugami was never meant to be worshipped. It was meant to obey, and that is why it remembers. Its memory is persistent, its obedience eternal, and its social power unmistakable. The Inugami is a testament to the enduring force of belief and the consequences of human action amplified by fear. Thank you for watching Grimm Lore. If you value long-form examinations of folklore, myth, and hidden history, subscribe, and share this documentary with others who seek context over spectacle. Every story buried in history has a reason. Some exist to warn, some exist to teach, and some, like the Inugami, exist to endure.